Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Stars Align with Matthew John, the show where we talk about the stars with the stars. My guest today is author, filmmaker, UFO researcher Craig Campobasso. Craig has made such amazing contributions to the field of UFO research and just opening up, humanity to what is actually our place in the stars. Craig is also an author. He directed, wrote, and produced the short film Stranger at the Pentagon, which was adapted from the popular UFO book authored by the late Dr. Frank E. Stranges. And the short film collected many accolades. In 2014, it won Best Sci-Fi Film at the Burbank International Film Festival. Craig has appeared on many radio shows, including Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. He's also been a guest on the Open Minds talk show with Regina Meredith and 2 episodes of Beyond Belief with George Norrie, who I got to meet at College's Life Expo, which was like a dream come true for me. George is the best. And you were also featured on Ancient Aliens, where Giorgio Tsoukalos, everyone knows who he is because the hair, but the pronunciation, Giorgio, right, is the main ancient astronaut theorist. So, Craig, welcome. It's really an incredible pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
We connected on Portal to Ascension, Neil Gar's platform, and it was so much fun. We did the Extraterrestrial Experiencer panel, you and I and Victor Furman and Neil. And we had a great discussion. Lots of different perspectives. Each of us brought a little bit of a different perspective and background. I'm fascinated by yours. I came across you a couple of years ago, Craig, way before meeting you on Portal to Ascension, because I found this book.
There it goes.
There it is. Yeah. The Extraterrestrial Experiencer's Almanac. So I have been looking into not as much as the UFO, the hard UFO evidence. That hasn't really been my area of research. I have just always assumed that aliens are very real and they interact with Earth all the time. They're here now. They always have been here. So my area of research has been about starseeds over the years. The idea that one soul comes from the stars, that many Earth people's souls come from the stars. So I found your book very helpful because, I've done hundreds and hundreds of these regression sessions with people over the years, and there's the real common star origin places, the Pleiades, Sirius, Arcturus, Lyra. But I've found dozens and dozens and dozens of people that have come from places that I'm really not all that familiar with. And your Extraterrestrial Species Almanac, it really opened me up to understanding some of the ones I weren't as familiar with, like, I don't know, the Yargians, for example, right?
Yargians, Yargians.
So I found your book very helpful, and I do still have it as a guide and a resource if I'm doing a regression session. Someone is going to a place that I have never really experienced or don't have much data about. I will refer to your almanac sometimes.
And what's interesting is most starseeds, when they first wake up, even before they find their own origins, right, is they start getting visited by several races, but the ones that they remember most are the feline races. They're sort of like the ones, a lot of times, with a lot of starseeds that I've come in contact with, that they're sort of like the welcoming committee, if you will, and which is very interesting. And then they just sort of fade in the background unless that person is from that society. Then
I guess it makes sense a little bit because they're very friendly. They're very friendly looking. They remind us of cats, or felines on Earth, right? That's an interesting observation, and I haven't seen that, like, per se as across the board, but I've certainly heard of a lot of people that have had their initial visits from feline beings. My initial visit, you probably won't be surprised, was from a Syrian being, because I am Syrian. But that's interesting. Now, what do you think of the idea that, just to get right into it, and we'll get into a little of your history, but just we're already kind of into it. The idea that the Yah Yel were responsible for the Phoenix Lights right at the turn of the century, that supposedly, because they look very much like Earth humans, that they are going to be the ones that welcome us like officially when official first contact takes place, like meeting whoever the president is, Biden or whoever in the 2030s on the White House lawn.
Well, that I've never heard.
You haven't? Okay.
Is that from directly from Daryl Anka
I think
when he's
so. I
channeling
think
Bashar?
so, but I don't want to say for 100% sure, just in
So
case it isn't. But
the Yah Yel beings are the fifth hybridization of the Sasani,
and that's from
right?
from Daryl, right?
That's from Daryl. This and then the sixth hybridization is that Earth humans becoming the sixth hybrid race known as the Inaka,
Okay.
right? And then it goes up to seven hybrid races as well. So, people get freaked out because, I know a lot of people think they're coming here and they're taking over our planet and they're hybridizing and they're doing this and they're doing that. Well, guess what? We are all universal hybrids already.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have been here since the beginning of time, mating with each other. We're basically their DNA, blueprints. We're considered DNA royalty in the universe because
Why?
we have such a vast amount of really, really concentrated, evolved DNA. But of course, the planet went back down after the consciousness crashed. And, a lot of people would say that'd be around the times of Atlantis and Lemuria. And then we went back to just becoming dualistic beings and trying to find our way back up, right? We lost the five DNA chains that originally were in us. So now we only have seven. The other five are above our head. But as we work on ourselves spiritually and we start to integrate, then those five chakras drop back down in. They move in between all of the rest of the chakras, and then all the seven chakras merge into the heart, and then you're working from the higher fully conscious chakras, right? So that's in these books, right? The Autobiography of an Extraterrestrial Saga, we were talking about starseeds. This is Turan. He's Pleiadian. When I woke up at the age of 26, many, many moons ago, Tehran is one of those beings in the universe where he was born dualistic in a fully conscious society. And how he
Where?
explains it in the
In the
Pleiades.
Pleiades. Okay.
Yeah. And now how he explains that, he said there out of every 200,000 births, there's somebody who is born dualistic. It's so that the dualistic person will become understanding and learn how to become fully conscious through people who are fully conscious. And because fully conscious people they have no idea
They have
what
no
it's like to
reference point, right?
interact. So
Anymore,
that's why
right?
they find Earth so fascinating,
And that's
right?
why they come to
Yeah,
Earth as
they
starseeds to
do.
re-experience
They
duality, right?
do.
Yeah.
And yes, and to re-experience it, but not only that, but to ascend again,
Right.
right?
To
To
reascend. I
ascend.
look
Yeah.
at it as like, when you go into a swimming pool, if you push the buoy, like, the between the shallow and the deep end, there's all these buoys. You push it down, right? That's your
Yeah.
artificially lowering your density or your frequency, but inevitably it
Right.
has to rise back up because that's
It
the laws of
does.
universal physics, we could say, right?
It absolutely is. But really, what Tehran's purpose is he ultimately is now one of the senior professors at Melchizedek, which is 490 planets of learning schools in the Mira system. And
Where
what
is the
he
mirror
does,
system?
It's out there. I think it might be near the Pleiades. I used to have a big map, but I don't know
I
exactly
actually
where it
do have a
is.
big, yeah, I have a big map
If
over
you have
there.
one, but
I
it's
wouldn't be able to show it the
somewhere.
camera, but
It's somewhere in there. I mean, when they were originally telling me when I was woken up, I didn't even know what the mirror system was. So I bought a map and I
yeah,
started looking, oh, there's where that is, and that's
yeah,
where
yeah.
that is. So, but what's great about it is he is the teacher of Starseeds before they take their incarnation missions on Earth. And he also teaches the mighty messengers who have already gone through every lifetime on earth as every race, creed, male, female,
What do
gay,
you call them?
straight, oh, mighty messengers. Now, those are people who have already gone through that schooling. Then it's what they're going. So Starseeds will work on themselves to raise consciousness in and around them, where mighty messengers come in to do it globally,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So they've already experienced everything that there is to experience on Earth because then everything comes from their heart base,
Would you equate that
right?
to a term I use, the bodhisattva, which comes from like the Hindu um traditions?
What does that mean?
Bodhisattva is a being that has already experienced the karmic cycles on Earth, has experienced
Oh yeah,
every.
yes,
I think it's the
yes.
same thing we're
It's
talking
the
about,
same
different
thing,
terms. Yeah.
just in different terms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they've experienced all religions. They've
Yeah.
experienced everything,
And
right?
they
So
already dealt with alchemize all the karma, and then it's just about service, right?
exactly, you're
Right.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And I think, I mean, like that's where myself and all of my followers, for the most part, are trying to get to is
yeah,
okay, we worked through all the karmic stuff we brought in. So many, not so many, like literally every light worker in Starseed I've ever encountered, including myself, had a really difficult, or at least somewhat difficult, usually first half of their life or first third of their life,
that's right.
because they have to go through all the karma that they
Yes,
brought in from other past lives in like that, right, in a very short period of
right,
time, in order for them to
right.
get to the service part.
Or if they were a walk-in, they have to clear the karma of the being that left.
Now, how common do you believe walk-ins are?
I think that they were very common at least 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Why?
I've heard so many people that I know somebody who has had a soul exchange 5 times in their lifetime, right?
Okay.
And explained it to me and what all that is. And now she's like a Buddha master teacher. I mean, she's the most amazing woman. I just can't. Just to be in her presence, you feel like you're elevating.
Do you know Sheila Seppi?
Yes, yeah, yeah,
She's okay. She's absolutely walking, right?
yeah.
So I've like, had a lot of clients come to me over the years that claim they're walk-ins, and some of them I'm sure are, and some of them I think misinterpreted being a walk-in for just like a dramatic life change,
Change. Right,
right?
right.
But I think there's relatively few true walk-ins. But it's interesting you said that there were more like 30, 40
There
years.
were more.
Why?
Yeah,
Why
because
though?
I don't know. I don't know. I have
Hmm.
no idea. I mean, it was just that a lot of people I was coming in contact in the 80s and all of that, a
Yeah.
lot of those people believed that they were true walk-ins,
Hmm.
right? And it could be, I always try and decipher everything.
Sure. Me too. Yeah.
It could actually be that they really were the star seed, but the mission didn't start until they woke up, and therefore they took it as a walk-in,
Yeah. And I think a lot of people do that because
right?
now I have no idea if this is true. I just do the best like you do in my research, right? But
Yeah.
I was told many years ago from up there that about 40% of the planet are starseed souls, and out of that, 99.5% do not know it yet. And they're still
I would
asleep.
say, yeah, yeah, they're still asleep.
So I think what you just said is probably, at least in my worldview,
Yeah.
really common.
They are in my circle. There's so many people that are awake. All of the children coming in that are
Yeah.
Starseed
I
parents.
think all of the children coming in
Brilliant.
right now probably are
Woo!
starseeds, you know?
They're so smart.
They
They're so
are.
smart. I'm like, God,
Yeah.
my brain wasn't even nowhere near where their brains are
No, and
when I
because
was
they grow up
15.
with the iPhones and the iPads, and they're just immediately able to adapt to like the vibration. You know, our the vibration of everything is faster now than it was 40 years ago, right? Or
Well, that's true, and because their parents are have a high energy field
right.
from their spiritual stuff, they were brought up with that, so more of the soul can come through
Yeah.
and be able to sustain themselves.
So do you believe the idea that there's only a percentage, like what we're only able to harness a percentage of our soul's energy and not all of it, essentially?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct. That's correct. We would short circuit.
Do you believe that as we ascend, we bring in more?
We do.
So
We
like in
do.
during the context of a physical lifetime, we actually start to bring in more of the soul's energy.
Absolutely,
Yeah, I believe that too.
absolutely. Yeah, and it's up to you how much you can bring in and how much you can handle. I mean, I've seen star seeds fizz out because, they started getting into smoking and drinking because they couldn't handle it, and
Yeah,
until they
I've
could
seen,
get a gripe on it.
it's interesting. Like it's not something that's really discussed a lot, but addiction is not mutually exclusive from the Starseed Lightworker community
Right.
at all. In
That's right.
fact, I can think of hundreds of people I've worked with one on one that either were in
Mhm.
addiction literally when they consulted with me or had just come out of it.
Right.
And especially Pleiadians. I've never
Yeah.
met a Pleiadian starseed that didn't either go through addiction and or sexual abuse.
Right. Yeah.
Have you found that too?
I found that too, but they have this great saying. They say the harder the lesson, the higher the evolution. And Pleiadians want to really bring a higher evolution here. So I would totally agree with that.
What I found is they want to teach Earth how to balance the yin and the yang, the
Yeah,
feminine and the masculine, which is why they want to explore relationships from all contexts and even, the dark side of like sexuality,
right.
the misuse of power and things like that throughout lifetimes, because they've mastered relationships on the Pleiades. Like they
Yeah.
live in such harmony. And it's
Yes.
not even just like monogamous two people relationships. They have threes and fours. They have
Absolutely.
heterosexual, homosexual,
Yeah.
bisexual, right?
Everything. I
Yeah.
mean, they have everything. I mean, I say it like this. If you're going to live 3 to 4 to 5,000 years or more, you're not going to be with the same person. And and if you're,
Till
if you
death
have
do
a
us part
wife,
3,000
yeah.
years later, right?
I mean, if you're a wife, your wife's going to go visit April, go visit,
Yeah, but there's no
So
jealousy. There's no backstabbing.
no.
It's all out of
There's
love.
nothing. It's all out of love because you know why? They want to see their partner happy and they want to see the other person that they're with happy as well. And they can choose whatever
Yeah.
they want. And what I found that they've told me is that, they'll pick a certain amount of time to go be with one person and live with them for quite some time, and then they'll go to somebody else and do that. And it just, it's not like it's a revolving door. It's just that, oh, we get this time to be together
Yeah.
now, right?
And it's
So,
all out of love and appreciation, and there's
right.
no negative. That's what I find so many Pleiadian starseeds are ditching the old model of death do us part, which really does come
Right.
from Christianity and
Yeah.
religion in general, right?
Yeah.
And exploring like polyamorous or ENM relationships. It's not for everybody. I'm a Scorpio. Scorpios are monogamous. I don't know if it's for me, but I love that people are exploring these new archetypes of relationships more than ever before. And it is the Pleiadian energy, the Pleiadian starseeds that's driving that forward on the planet. It's
Yeah.
opening us up, to just there's so many possibilities for everything, including relationships, that anytime we have horse blinders on about anything, we're kind of enforcing the third density around us, right? When we're more
Right.
open to all possibilities and nuances and differences, that's the fifth, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Wonderful. I've heard, by the way, did you hear that Pleiadians often will like completely regenerate their body about halfway through their incarnation?
I
It
haven't heard that, but I believe that. Yes,
and then
that
when
they
when
can do
they
that.
like die, it's conscious. They choose it because
Yeah,
there's no illness. They don't die due to illness. They
right,
just say, all right, this has been fun. 3,000 years in this body. Let me try another
right.
body. Right.
Yeah,
And before they die,
exactly.
they choose their next mother, like literally like in the physical, as much as they can be physical, right?
Right.
Will you bring me into the world? And then
Yes.
they do, right?
Yes, and for created beings, I forget, I don't have it in front of me, but I have the information. Because they live for eternity in the same body. So at a certain point, I think it's like 10,000 years or more than that, that they can change their appearance, but their identity is the same. And everybody who knew them would still know them because of the energy signature.
Hmm.
But it's sort of like changing something up just to be so you're not the same person
Like
all
changing
the
your
time.
hair. If I were to
Exactly,
shave all
exactly.
my
Yeah,
my hair off, right?
right. And we know that creative beings can change their appearance if they want to change their appearance as well.
Now, are these on the Pleiades specifically or in other
No, it's
places?
everywhere. There's creative beings everywhere. Creative beings are the angelics in human
Okay.
form, and there's various levels of them, and they're assigned to different sectors of the universe to oversee it and to see its growth and that kind of thing. Like Valiant Thor, we were talking about, Stranger at the
Right.
Pentagon. He's one of the creative beings that oversees our galaxy and especially our planet. He's still here overseeing the ascension transition that the planet is actually going through. So there's many of them. He will go off and have to go to other excursions and things like that to other places. But we would just call them high seraphims.
Okay. How
Yeah.
did you meet Thyron is the name?
Tehran.
Tehran. How
Tehran.
did you meet Tehran
Well, Tehran was one of the beings that came to wake me up when I was
when you were
26.
26? Okay.
Yeah. And I just kept seeing him over and over and over again, and then started communicating. And it was very interesting because I would see all the beings that would come around very clearly. And when I would meditate, I call it the mind internet, they come around and it's like I'm looking at you. I could see them on my inner eyelids and that kind of thing. And I thought I need to bring all of these extraterrestrials from all these different worlds to life. I have to find an artist. And, I was looking around, I was watching some little program on PBS. Barbara Lamb was on there showing artwork of ETs. And I called Barbara up. I said, "Who's that artist?" And she said, "Oh, that's Christine Dennett." And so I called Christine. We met for lunch, and we were sitting there, and she just was looking at me, and then she went, "Oh, there's like this guy with this really long blonde hair um behind you. He's really tall, and he's
Wow.
saying his name is Thyron." I said, "It's Tehran." I
Whoa.
said, "Close enough."
Wow.
And I went, "Okay, you're my artist.
Wow.
And
What a
so
wow.
she was totally locked in. Since then, I've found another artist who I've redone all the artwork, because now you can do so many things with
AI, right?
AI,
Yeah.
Photoshop, and
So
her
is that the
brain
artwork
cell.
in this book?
No, none of that artwork is seen yet,
Okay.
actually.
Oh, cool.
I'm doing two prequel books to these books, which I'm finishing now.
Okay.
And I've got all the artwork done. So the artwork will start in there. And then um, and then I'll do one more book, which it will be at the very end, the seventh book. And then it'll be a 7-part book series. So.
Is that intentional? Seven chakras,
Yeah, it's just the number that they said that we could tell the whole story.
7 notes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, seven is, I love that the number is seven.
Yeah, me
So
too. Yeah.
yeah.
Wonderful. Do you feel so I guess do you feel the closest connected with the Pleiadians out of any of the beings out there?
I feel the closest connected to them, and I also feel they're two of the other beings that woke me up came from the very first super universe on the very first planet created, which is where all things come from throughout the creation, are created there and then sent out, like food, people, everything is amassed there. And it
Is this a
is
literal universe or a template?
no, it's there's 7 super universes, and they're in the first universe and the first world created. We're in the 7th super universe, and they say in each ovum there's 700,000 local universes. So if you times that by 7 and then do that interdimensionally, just I mean, there's no way that we couldn't even imagine what's
All right,
throughout the
hold on.
entire
You're saying
creation.
there's okay. Let me go back so I get it. You're saying there's 7 super universes, and out of
Yeah,
each one, there's 700,000
thousand
local
local
universe, and we're in one of
universes.
those local universes.
One of the local
And then we're
universes.
out of that, of course, we're in one galaxy
Right.
out of
Exactly. Exactly.
trillions or
Exactly.
quadrillions, maybe, right?
There's so many. I mean, we can't even fathom what's out there,
I
you
love
know.
hearing it's, and when I do these interviews, is one of the most fun part is everyone has a little different model of
Right.
what this all is. I have a different model. I don't know if I would agree with that. I would have to meditate on it.
Right.
Maybe next time I do ayahuasca, I'll see if that makes sense to me. So I don't know, but I love hearing all these
Yeah.
different perspectives. That's
Right. Yeah.
fascinating. I yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, that information actually comes from the Urantia book. If you've ever read the
It
Urantia books.
oh, really?
Yes, that is directly from the
Huh.
Urantia book, which is probably one of the most mind-blowing books besides J.J. Hurtak's The Keys of Enoch.
Tell me a little bit about I'm not familiar. I think I may own it and may have never opened it, but
Well,
tell
it's
me.
like this. It's like this thick,
Okay.
literally thousands of
But where
pages.
does it come from?
Well, in you know I don't remember exactly. There's not one author. The authors of different sections are either mighty messengers or other types of messengers or angelic beings.
Is it
Now I
channeled
don't
through a person, like one
I
person, or
that I don't know. From what I hear, that those things were sort of kept um, secret so that nobody would maybe idolize where
hmm.
it came from. But I'm not really sure. It's, people can go on the Urantia website and find
I'm
out.
gonna have to look into it. Yeah, for sure
Yeah,
now. I
yeah,
like
it's
I like
it's
trying to figure
fascinating.
everything out just
Yeah,
like you.
you can get the book for, I think they give it to you for free
Yeah.
online, right? And or you can buy it online.
There was
But
another book, they had a booth at the Conscious Life Expo, and the woman was talking to me about it. It's from Turkey. You heard of this? It's like some book like this that they say has all the secrets to the universe.
mm-mm.
It's so, this whole thing is so fascinating how there are a lot of these books out there that have all the secrets, but the secrets are a little different. And I just wonder why. It's one of
Well, it's
the most,
probably the culture that brought it through,
good point.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
good point.
yeah, yeah.
Because everything that's brought through from up there, it's brought through a lens
Yes,
of someone's culture, someone's
right,
history,
right.
right?
And I used to think, how could how could these beings not make sure that it comes through perfectly?
Yeah, I've thought that
And
too. Yeah,
and the answers are, you're in school. When
right.
you graduate,
True.
you're going to have all the answers.
True.
So just learn.
When we're in school, we make
Right,
mistakes. You
right.
know, right? We're
Exactly.
learning.
Exactly.
And also we're a human mind in this life trying to conceptualize things that may be too big for the human mind, or at the very least, we have to conceptualize them in a way that we can actually understand from the human mind's
Yeah.
perspective. And like in the angelic realms or in the Pleiadian or Syrian realms or wherever, we would probably conceptualize it in a way we can't even really fathom while in the human body potentially.
Right. Right.
Or maybe not, or maybe we can we can have glimpses into that. Like, to me, I've always been such a proponent of plant medicine, for example, and
Yes.
like on certain experiences on plant medicine, they afterwards they're kind of unexplainable in words.
Yeah.
They're too big for words, and the
Hmm.
words like it just inevitably dampen the experience slightly because it's too big for the left brain conceptualization.
Yes.
But then I love trying to, this is like my whole life's mission, as I think you're kind of there too, trying to figure this whole thing out. How does life work? How does the universe work? What is it, right? In
Well, we're
logical
always trying
terms.
to figure it out. And when you get to the next step, it just brings, another 100 questions. So it
True.
never ends. It
Every new
never ends.
revelation brings more
Right.
questions. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Cool. Where are you most like what are you most fascinated with trying to figure out now?
Um, Nothing really. I mean, I've just been finishing up my documentary and doing a lot of writing. So, that those things just channel through me very easily. The beings come to me, they show me their face, they tell me their voice, I get to experience their feeling body. It's like telepathy for them. When they do telepathic stuff, they share their
Yeah.
feeling bodies and you get to feel what they experience. So you actually are having the same experience that they had. And then that actually goes into your spiritual makeup, you know,
Wow.
your
Yeah.
your stuff. So that's pretty much it. I mean, I would say nobody really knows how the world's going to shift and change over. There's so many people have different ideas about it and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
um I mean, I really don't know, and I don't even think the angels know. I think it just will happen when it's
Well,
supposed to happen.
there likely are very many multiple like macro timelines that
Right.
the planet could take during this ascension, right? And on we could say the higher ones, it'll be maybe a softer landing with things than on the lower ones potentially, right?
Right.
I think,
But see, that's a
yeah.
that's a good idea. That was actually an interesting idea. What if it's on the timelines of everybody's state of consciousness and where they vibrate into?
I think that's also
Yeah,
accurate. I think there's
right,
macro timelines where
right,
we could say, okay, this is like what will play out on the news and in the history books, right? The
Right.
collective experiences. Like right now, recently we've had the collective experience of the Russia-Ukraine war, the Israel-Gaza war, right? Okay. So there will be those collective experiences. And I think those are different based on the collective timeline, but also what you just said is also relevant. You and I are probably vibrating it a little bit higher than a lot of people that haven't yet really stepped into their awakening journey. And our experience of the macro will be totally different than people that are on that are vibrating a little bit
Different. Yeah.
lower, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where there could be more fear or more anything that is of the lower emotional experience, right?
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
I could definitely see that. Definitely see that.
Because we're all individual, like, sparks of, like, photons, we could say sparks of light, right? So, but yet we're also the collective. It's both, right?
Right.
In the fourth density or the fifth dimension, it's now all one. But in the third, the illusion is that we're all spread out into these 8 billion different pieces of light. So because of that, that's why to me it makes sense. There's a macro collective timeline, but also micro individual timelines that are based on individual vibration.
You're right. Yeah.
Where maybe in the fifth dimension now we're all vibrating together, and that's not relevant anymore.
Hmm. Yeah.
Strangers at the Pentagon. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I made the short film, and I used it. I really didn't make it to put out into the world. I made it as a proof of concept for backers to raise the money, but everyone found out about it, and so I released it into the world. And it's scenes from the movie that I just sort of sewed together with a little surprise ending to get, to keep people's curiosity piqued and that kind of thing.
Great.
And then it just went like rocket fire
Awesome.
all over the world. And the basic story of that is Valiant Thor, who's a creative being. It was told to our government that a universal emissary would be visiting at some point. They didn't give a date, but then when the date was arranged, it was 8 a.m. on Saturday, March 16th, 1957. He was picked up in an agricultural field after his craft dropped him off.
Where?
He was brought to the Pentagon in Virginia. And then he was brought to the Pentagon. He was debriefed there. Then they put him on the train, took him over to the White House in the underground train. Then where he met with Eisenhower, Nixon, Joint Chiefs, and all of that. And really, what he came with was a divine design to help humanity to eliminate sickness, disease, how to prolong life. Talk to Eisenhower about how the universe works. Talk to him about the atomics that have been, doing bad things not only to the Earth's environment and its stabilization fields, but also interdimensionally and the other planets throughout our galaxy. Talk to him about free energy, all kinds of things. So it had already been decided that he would be the guest of our government for 3 years. So below the Pentagon, they do have apartments. So they arranged for an apartment for him where he lived for 3 years, and then over the 3 years, he helped. He had many discussions with everything there, with all the different departments. He also was there at the beginning stages of NASA, and because they were just formulating, I think around 1960, and but in the end, the other powers that be, Nixon and Eisenhower, were for the proposal. but it was the other powers that be that rejected it, saying it would put doctors, nurses, pharmaceutical companies, electrical companies out of business, because
Of
then
course.
everything would be perfect and all of that.
Capitalism runs on solving
So
problems. If there are no problems, you
yeah,
have no
right,
capitalism. Then we have to
right,
come up with a new
exactly.
system. On the new
Right.
earth, capitalism is not tenable. We need a new system.
Right, exactly. And we see all of these systems are starting to crumble. And it's only a matter of time, but he came, and the interesting thing is Dr. Frank Strange's was he's a minister who taught about UFOs in the Bible, and he happened to be speaking at a local church in Washington for 2 weeks. And Valiant Thor befriended a black secretary whose name was Nancy Warren. Her name that's the name Dr. Frank gave her in the book. It's not her real name, but so he had Nancy go over to the church and tell Dr. Frank that he wanted to meet him, and he didn't do it because he was a minister. He did it because he was open to the message. So Dr. Frank became the grassroots campaign to let the world know that he came here. And Dr. Frank spoke all over the world
Hmm.
on him, and his vice commanders would always go with him. Some of them were photographed, which I
Huh.
see they look just like us, right?
These were the
Uh,
Pleiadians?
no, they're well. I don't know exactly what they are, but they live on his ship, which is called Victor One. That's Victor One right there. These are the blueprints,
Oh, huh.
right? And
Yeah, I
that's
see
what
it.
Victor
Yeah, yeah.
One looks like.
Huh.
So all these are on Stranger at the Pentagon.com website if
And
people
that's where
want
we can
to
find the
get the
movie too.
posters. You can get the movie there. I only have 10 DVDs left. They're like collector's items
Is it
now.
on
So
the internet though?
it's, yeah, you could watch it on the website,
Okay.
or you can watch it on Amazon Prime.
DVDs in general are becoming collectors. So this I'm gonna have to check out Strangers at the Pentagon. This is fascinating. I did not even know about this book from Dr. Frank or any of
Oh,
this.
yeah.
This is
Yeah.
really fascinating.
You can get it on the website, and if people want, I'll sign it to them as the
Oh,
filmmaker and all that good stuff.
it's
So,
great. Yeah, I'm gonna
yeah.
check this out for sure. And the new documentary, what's the focus of that?
Yeah. So it's from this book.
Oh, cool. Cool.
And so it's the Extraterrestrial Species Almanac, the documentary.
Oh, great.
And the book came about because I've been studying contactee cases, and I've met many hybrids and extraterrestrial experts my whole career. And so I built the book based on all of these contactees, which I contacted and got permission. So if you, like, for instance, the Yargans, if you wanted to explore more about that, in the back of the book, it says further reading, which is really the bibliography. That's where you could go and find where you could purchase the book, or some of the races, those books are out of print.
Okay. Yeah.
So I tell you where you can go and get it in a PDF,
Great.
right? Because you can't even find them anymore.
So you
But what?
and
But
I was going to actually ask you about that. And sorry to interrupt, but you compiled this basically out of kind of hard research then.
yeah, lots of
Okay,
hard
that's great to
research.
know.
Yeah.
That's great to know.
Yeah, hard research. So what I've done with the documentary, you're going to actually meet a lot of face-to-face contactees who have interface with extraterrestrials. One guy's
Yeah.
been having it most of his life,
Yeah.
and he has pictures, and he shared the pictures, so they're all,
Are these
in the
people that have had
documentary.
contact in person in the
In
physical?
person,
In the
yeah,
okay, and
face to
only them?
face, face to face.
Face to face.
Well,
Okay.
some of them not. Like the Alpha Centaurians have have interfaced that I know of with maybe 7 different people from Peru, because they mainly visit there because it's a poor country, and they go into the villages and help the poor people because they don't have medicine. They help them, with their crops. They help them with everything, and they do routine visits, that type of thing. So I've met several of the face-to-face contactees there. Ricardo Gonzalez is one. He was the one who helped me with the information in the book. And then Sixto Paz, who I've met many times before, he's actually in the documentary. He's actually been on the Alpha Centaurian crafts over 100 times.
Hmm.
So they're very knowledgeable about the race.
I wanted to ask you about this. So my good friend, have you heard of Todd Deviney? Todd R. Deviney? Really incredible channel material about the quantum physics of creation and the universe. And so much of my models of what I teach publicly about starseeds is based off of Todd's work, and him and I work together. His understanding is that, like, think of the galaxy as a living, breathing body, and there's quadrants, of course, to the galaxy, right? You can divide into 4 quadrants, and every star system there's like an axis essentially you can draw through the center of the galaxy to the other side, and it's like on a seesaw. Or so when one star system is going through an ascension process, the other that's on that axis is also. And supposedly, according to him, our solar system and Alpha Centauri are on an axis, essentially.
Ah, yeah, there you go. Yeah, these are Nordic beings from Alpha Centauri. Nordics.
That the only experience I've had in regressions with people, they did look pretty human.
Yeah. Yeah, they're super tall too. They could
They
be,
are
some
okay.
of them are up to 9 feet. I think Enteral, who is one of the contactees, or the beings that has visited all of these various contactees. I believe he's either 8 feet or 9 feet. I remember him being extremely tall.
A lot of these ETs are really tall, which me as a 5 foot, well, I'll be generous, 5'11" Jew is
Right.
sometimes really upsetting.
Well, you look at like like a skinny, good-looking actor like Jacob Elordi standing next to a regular sized person, which is my height, 5'9", and you look like a shrimp,
And I may
you
have
know.
exaggerated the 5'11", even. If we meet in person, we'll find out for
I
real.
know, I know. So,
Good stuff. Um,
yeah.
so one of the fun things we like to do on this show, if the guest is open to it, is look at your astrology, because I'm
Mm,
always fascinated to see, like, okay, someone like you who has such a fascinating career, has had such incredible contributions, and like you've probably had a lot of really odd and amazing experiences that I think most humans are not
yes.
privy to, right?
A lot. Yes.
Yeah. So I think just for fun, can we look at your natal chart?
Yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
let's
Go
do it. So
for
I'm going
it.
to pull it up. I did not look at this beforehand. I never look at them beforehand, just off the cuff. The first thing that I see about you that I think is really fascinating is that you have Saturn in the very first minute of Sagittarius, right? And Saturn is going to be it's the foundation, it's the basis that you end up building everything in your life off of, especially when it's well aspect. And to you it has this trine. A trine is the most wonderful supportive aspect we can have to Pluto and Venus, right? And Pluto is that spiritual digging, that spiritual transformation, that spiritual understanding, wanting to investigate and understand, like, all that is a part of reality, like we've been talking about. And it's in Virgo, and it's in the 10th house. This is your house of career right here. So your public image is an investigator. That's Pluto in Mercury. Venus there as well, providing it as a living, trining Saturn in the second house. Anytime that anyone has Saturn in the second house, it's fortunate for finances. And especially because it's right next to your part of fortune. The part of fortune is like the treasure chest of the natal chart. It's when we triangulate the sun, the moon, and the rising. It's like X marks the spot. So if we dig there, we will be able to experience the most fortunate possibilities, like the most fortunate timeline in all of our in the possibilities that our natal chart presents. To have Saturn conjunct the part of fortune like that in the second house, trining Pluto in Virgo. That's like, and it being in the first minute of Sagittarius Saturn is it makes you a traveler, right? Because Sagittarius is the traveler, the adventurer, the seeker in the physical, while Pluto in Virgo in the 10th house is like the back in the office investigating, uncovering, right? And then the Venus part as well. Venus is like film is ruled by Venus. Mercury is in there as well. But Venus and Virgo, it's going to be film that has like information that is being relayed. So not for entertainment as much as for teaching, right? It really is a very public teacher archetype that you have. You also have a sextile here between Saturn and your North Node. The North Node is the direction your soul's taking you in this life. The North Node is more than anything our purpose in this life. For you, that is conjunct your sun, which is the essence of who you are, being a Libran, wanting to contribute to the evolution of the planet, and especially, justice for all and fairness for all, equality for all, right? Moving from this awful system of this hierarchy of the castes of society into like oneness, which is the Aquarian age, right? And speaking of Aquarius, that's all in your 11th house, which is the house of Aquarius, right? That's the house of community. So ultimately, I would say you're like this investigator, traveler, media maker, but really what your soul is having you do in this life is create new community. Be a part of the leadership of literally creating the new paradigm of communities for the new earth, for the Aquarian age. Probably modeled off of, maybe this is an idea, to just have in the back of your mind. At some point you'll come out with film around like what it actually is, what community is actually like on the Pleiades or on Sirius or whatever. How do they live? How can we model the new earth off of the way they do things, because they know how to do things much better than we do, because they're at a higher frequency, right?
Yeah.
You got literally everything. All of your planets are in the final quadrant, which is about community. Okay. You have, look at there's a dearth of planets. You have nothing from the third all the way to your midheaven, right? You have Uranus on your midheaven, which Uranus and Leo on the midheaven, that could also be like marking the extraterrestrial contacts or experiences, because that would absolutely be under the realm of Uranus and Leo. But to have this, this lack of action over here, it shows me that in the lifetimes, actually probably several lifetimes before this, you really were totally focused on the me, the I. Who can I become in the world, right? Maybe even focusing on fame, where in this life, it's all about contribution to the whole and to community. Very Aquarian in nature. It's actually relatively rare to have a chart where everything is conglomerated only in the final quadrant like that. The final quadrant is about it's service. It's about service to the all and merging with the all. So that's kind of your essence, the way I see it.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Does some of that make sense, or all that whole
Oh
thing?
yeah, no, it totally makes sense.
Awesome.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah. And also, by the way, having Neptune in your 12th house, that's like, there's certain marks in a chart, I call them like mediums marks. I don't know if you like that term or not, but that's a mark of someone that has access through, the astral realms, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And also a very active. I would imagine when you were a kid, like myself, growing up an only child, you probably had a very active fantasy world, I would imagine.
I did, but I also saw things moving in other
So both, yeah. And
dimensions.
me too, by the way.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember seeing like spirits when I was like,
yeah,
I don't know, 8, and I didn't really understand it, you know?
yeah. Me neither. I
Yeah.
mean, it kind of freaked me out because I didn't know what it was. I never
Yeah.
told my mom and dad. I mean, I don't
Really?
even know why I didn't tell them. I just never did. But before I went to bed, I had to check under the bed, in the closet, not for
Me
monsters,
too.
but for these little floating things that I
Oh,
could see moving around my room.
I did the same, and they were these little weird beings that freaked me out that I saw in like dream state, but and
Yeah.
I didn't want them to come back. I must have been like 4 when this happened. And so I would like check around for everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it like more like I could see an energy form like a mirage rippling across the room. That's what I saw. And then I actually saw an angel
Wow.
when I was 10 that came and visited me in my room. And I thought immediately thought one of my parents died and it was their spirit. And I
Oh my
ran
God.
into their bedroom and I was like doing this
Yeah.
under their nose and they were fine. Then I was like, oh, maybe it was one of my sisters. And I ran
Oh
in
my
their
God.
bedroom
Yeah.
and did that. And then I just realized, it was, it was just an angel.
Yeah. I had a weird past life experience when I was like 10, when like in the middle of the night, I thought the house was on fire, and I woke my parents up, and I like sat on the stairs, and I wouldn't believe they were trying to tell me, no, look, everything's fine, everything's fine. But it was a past life experience of being in a house that burnt down in the middle of the night. You know,
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
amazing. Like me, I always say like my spiritual awakening started at like 22. Yours was 26. But yet the more I think about it, and also the more my mom tells me about things I did when I was a kid, I realize I was much more awake than your average kid,
Right. Yes.
you know?
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
you too, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely. I mean, I go back and I think of all the experiences that I had, right? When I was, and a lot of it centered around age 10.
Interesting.
I mean, also at age 10, I remember taking a bath and all of a sudden I looked in the nozzle and I saw my face and my entire soul got pulled out of my body. It went to the middle of the universe and the
Whoa.
universe opened up and I felt all of the love. And then I heard all of those things. Who am I? Where did I come from?
Wow.
Blah, blah,
At
blah.
10.
All that stuff at
Oh
10
my
came through.
God.
And then I went, and then it came crashing back down into my
Wow.
body. And I
Wow.
always remembered it, but again, I never told my parents.
Yeah. Were your
I don't know
parents like
why.
open to this sort of stuff or no?
My father, no. My mother would definitely have a conversation with you about it.
Yeah.
And even if she didn't understand something, she wanted to understand it.
Yeah.
Right. So she definitely she definitely was open. Her side of the family was more psychic than anything. She told me that, not
Yeah.
that they weren't psychics, they were just psychic,
Gotcha.
right? They
Yeah.
just knew things. They
Yeah.
knew things, right? And
Gotcha.
she was one of those people, right? If
Yeah.
she told you don't go to blah blah blah, you wouldn't go and then
Yeah.
you would find that something bad happened,
Wow.
right?
Yeah. Huh.
So I always listened to her.
My dad was an atheist, like through and through, but he was obsessed with sci-fi. And it's like all him and I would do would watch sci-fi movies. And now I know my dad's on the other side. He was a star seed. He just didn't
Yeah,
really know it, but that's all he did was read sci-fi and watch sci-fi, and it's all we would do together. And my mom is the new age one, and like since I was born, she always had the new age stuff and the crystals and around me. And
yeah,
probably I think she was always probably waiting. She's told me many times she always knew I would become like some sort of spiritual or shamanic, leader or
right.
something. And I
Yeah,
did.
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. and
So,
then and then my biological father, who I never knew, I
hmm,
found him after he had passed away and met his
huh.
family, still very close with his family, was in Project Blue Book.
Project Blue Book, and
Yeah.
remind myself and
So,
the audience,
well,
please.
all right. So here's what's interesting. So Project Blue Book was the Air Force's study on unidentified flying objects that started in 1952, was decommissioned in January of 70, which
Okay.
investigated over 11,000 sightings. And its main study was to determine if UFOs were a threat to national security and to scientifically analyze UFO related data.
Okay.
All right. Now, I write books for MUFON, which is a US nonprofit
Uh-huh.
comprised of civilian volunteers who
Uh-huh.
study reported UFO sightings,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
I'm in the film business.
Uh-huh.
And then my biological father, when he left the Air Force, ultimately became the head of construction at Warner Brothers for film and TV.
Wow.
So we basically have the same career. And it's
Interesting.
just in the DNA. And
It's in the DNA.
I look really, really like him a lot. And I never knew what he looked like
Yeah.
until my uncle,
Huh.
gave me all the pictures and, everything. So,
By the way, that's astrologically speaking, I would describe that as because Pluto, I always like to go with the light side of Pluto first, but Pluto is the can be the darkest planet as well. And like, not growing up with a father like that can
yeah,
be described by Pluto conjunct Venus there. But
right.
it's trining Saturn here, which again is the foundation for like everything you are. So it ended up manifesting as biologically this trine between
Yeah.
him and what became your everything, your career and your MO.
All of that. I mean, I never didn't have a father. My mother married my father,
Hmm.
my stepfather
Yeah,
when
yeah,
I
yeah.
was one. So
Yeah.
I don't look at him as a stepfather. He's my
And he would
father.
probably be here. I think he would be, this would be your
Yeah,
stepfather, Saturn,
right.
and your father would
Yeah,
be Pluto right here next to Venus.
yeah. Bio father.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah,
Fascinating.
it is. It's just like when I found that out, I was writing the ET species almanac. So I dedicated it
Yeah.
to my biological father.
Amazing. Wow.
There he
That
is.
is so
That was in
freaking
his
cool.
that was when he was in his Air Guard
Unbelievable.
uniform before he went into the Air Force at age 18. Yeah, it
Unbelievable.
just blew me away. Never in a million years would I have thunk that.
Unbelievable.
Right? Had no idea what he did, but I would never have thought he was in Project Blue Book. And I got his military papers, which are like this thick, and on his dog tags and on his honorable discharge papers. I have friends that are high up in the military and Air Force, and they say, Craig, it's never going to say he worked there. It usually says intelligence, which
Right.
did, but they said it's in the numbers that are coded. And they
Huh.
said, we have never seen those numbers. We don't even know what those numbers mean.
Whoa. Whoa. That's
And I was like,
whoa.
so I'm sure I'll never find out what those numbers mean unless I
Right.
meet some general or something,
Sure. Wow.
who might know how to decipher it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Craig, this was so fascinating. I wish we could go for hours. I learned so much. I know my audience learned so much. Please
Oh, thank
comment
you.
below. Let us know what you found most interesting. That we delved into so much today. Craig, where can people find all of your stuff? I will put all the links in the description box.
Great. Autobiography of an ANET. You can get the four-part book series. That's book four.
Awesome.
They're all on the homepage. Then if you click other books, you can get the ET Species Almanac and this, and I'll sign them all for you as well.
Beautiful.
And then Stranger at the Pentagon, if you want to get any of those posters, any die of all four of Dr. Frank's out of print books, all of that goes towards making the feature film.
Amazing.
And like I said, I have 10 DVDs left if anybody wants a collector's item. So
Before
uh,
there's the
yeah.
DVD players themselves become
Yeah,
collector's
I
items.
know exactly. I'm like I have one, right?
I don't have one
And
anymore. I wouldn't even. I don't have like my laptop doesn't even take CDs anymore. It's like,
I know. Well, mine doesn't either. Mine doesn't either. So,
oh, wonderful, Craig. Thank you so much. Just an absolute pleasure. You're
thank
amazing. Thank
you.
you so
You are
much.
too. Thank you,
Oh,
Matthew.
thank you. All right, namaste. Blessings.